Hi there and welcome to video 4. In this video we're actually going to go through the actual production process of creating some videos, getting them up to YouTube, creating a squeeze page and all the kind of technical side of everything that's going in there, and then making sure everything is flowing correctly so that we can make money with our campaign. Now as you can see here, we're starting off with the actual PowerPoint slideshow that I actually then went ahead and recorded. As you can see there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think it's about 6 or 7, I guess 8 slides in total. And what we did is, I'm going to close that because we've already recorded this. I'm not going to bore you with recording it obviously and take up all your time, but what we did is we recorded it, and then at the end of the video you can see here there's a segment where it's just the last frame for about 15 seconds. Actually I did it for about 30 seconds in this case, but what this does is it stops them, the customer, clicking over to the next video from the related videos that are popped up at the end of the video by YouTube themselves. So we don't want them to do that, we want them to click on ours. So we leave this up for a few seconds. People are very short in terms of what they're going to do next and acting next. They're very impulsive, so hopefully they'll go ahead and click on the link that we're pointing to in our description, or this link here. Now obviously this is the version I'm using for myself, and this is what we're publishing. Obviously you would come in and you would edit the slideshow so that it's your link here and re-record the audio if you want to. The other thing I'm going to do, which I'll talk about in a little while, is I'm going to give you a blank version or a different version of this with a space here where you can actually put your own annotation in, and instead of saying click here for part 2 or click the link below, or use the URL below, that's what I will put in the video that I provide for the affiliates, just in case you're wondering. And I'll explain more about that later on. I don't want to get too bogged down in that right now. Now, to publish a video for YouTube from Camtasia Studio, which is what we're using right now, you come over here. Actually, you know what, before I do that, let me show you how to clean it up a little bit. Oftentimes when you record a video, I'm just going to give you a couple of little hints here, you get a little bit of microphone hum with this. Now, Camtasia Studio has a really cool little thing called Audio Enhancements. If you click on this, you'll see up here, you can actually select an area of blank sound and manually remove noise, or let it automatically do it and click remove noise. What it'll do is it'll sample the audio track, it'll try and pick out all the background noise, any hums or anything like that, and automatically strip them out. Very, very good. Now another really cool thing is evening out the volume. Now if you have several slices of video that you've kind of put together, there might be at different audio levels. What this tries to do is even them out. So I always do the low level variation, and a lot of my videos are kind of loud because I have a very powerful microphone. So and saying that, I'm moving my microphone slightly away from my mouth after the last recording was kind of loud. But another really cool thing you can do outside of kind of balancing out the audio and removing the noise is this little thing here. With my microphone, it's very, very sensitive, and it can sometimes pick up clicks and clipping. When you go between one audio track and another, there's a little bit of a kind of a ping, so to speak, or a clip noise. You can actually remove that by bringing these down as well. So when you're editing out here and doing your kind of splicing, so to speak, it removes a lot of those kind of clicks and pings and stuff that's going on. So when you've done that, click OK. I've already done that, so I don't have to. But there you go with your finished video, with whichever way you want to go ahead and do it. Now, producing your video, you have to export it in a certain format ready for use with YouTube. So click on Produce Video As, and they actually have an option here for YouTube video, but it doesn't quite do it at the right size. So I'm going to show you how to do it manually to make sure it's just perfect. Now, click on, make sure it's selected with Custom Production Settings. Click on Next. Now we want to leave this as MP4 or SWF, and I'll show you why later on. We use SWF for our landing page, and that's how we're going to do it in our case, but you can do all sorts of different things. You also have all these different options here. I prefer MP4. It gives a lot better compression ratio, smaller file size, and still has quite a high quality output. SWF, as we talked about in the guide, is good for SWF, and FLVs are good for low motion short videos, whereas the longer files are better off as MP4s. Now let me go ahead and leave it as that. Click on Next. Now you have many options. You can actually just do the video. You don't actually have to do the flash at all. You could just do no controls and what have you. But what this does is it wraps around the player, it embeds it in an HTML file so that you can use it yourself. And I always like to do that just in case I need to reuse it for any purpose later on. For example, if I want to embed it in my web pages or what have you, it already gives me all the code I need to do that, which is great. Now, because we're not going to upload it at this size to YouTube, we're actually going to change the dimensions and give it a kind of a preparedness, because oftentimes programs like this do a lot better job of conversion and cropping and the formatting than YouTube's internal stuff. So we're going to change the dimensions. Right now that's kind of huge, but we come down here to custom, and what we need, and if you remember this from what we talked about earlier on with the different sizes, the actual size for the widescreen is 640. We'll turn off the aspect ratio here, by 356. Now they say it's 360, but it's actually about 4 pixels less. But what that does, it'll give you this kind of size here, and we click on OK. We're happy with that. Now the last thing to do, just confirm here the video is going to be this size, and it shows you right here. Click on Flash Options. Make sure for YouTube it's MP4. There's not a lot of motion, although we do have some fade, so we can put that at 15 frames per second, and we can leave it at 800 kilobytes per second if we want to, because remember YouTube does normal quality and then a high quality version, and the high quality version does take a wee bit longer to format. So you can leave it at 800 kilobytes to give it the maximum amount of data to process and convert for its high quality version, or you can even knock it down to 300 if you want to. That'll give you a smaller file size, and it'll still be very high quality on Google. So we're going to leave it at 300 now, just for sake of argument. We'll click OK, and then when we're done, it'll ask us, do we want to embed it in HTML? Do we want to include watermarks and all that kind of stuff? For this, no, we don't. But embedding it into HTML might be useful for later on. And then we just click Next and tell it where to save it. I leave this. I don't upload it to screencast.com, although you can. It's another distribution point. And I just leave it as basically these defaults here, and I'd click Finish. Now, I've already done this, so I'm not actually going to do it here. And let me bring up the right folder. As you can see, this is the output here. These are the files it's already created for us. Here's the HTML, here's the actual video file, and here's all the kind of loaders and stuff like that. And if I double click this, here you go. That's actually playing now. So I don't know if you can hear my gravelly voice over that. I'm actually suffering from the flu right now, so if my voice is a little off, I do apologize. But I wanted to make sure I got this video done for you guys, and that you can take full advantage of what's going on. Now, as you can see here, I've already uploaded this to YouTube, and actually we'll go over here first. And as you can see, if I click on Edit, it'll do a little preview when it comes up. Okay, here we go. So I've put in, I'm actually targeting this phrase here, viral video marketing, with this. And as you can see, I've also put in part 1. We want to let them know straight from the start there are several parts to this. Now, by doing that, you kind of create a psychological effect, is they're expecting to see a series. So even before they've even looked at your video, they're expecting to go see part 2. So you've already prepared them for that rather than springing it on them at the end. It's a great little technique. Now, I've also done something kind of cool here in that I've put my link at the very top, and I've put a little underline here. And if you look at the presentation, the way that actually wraps up, it kind of highlights it here so that when we come to the end of the video, see the arrow is pointing right at it. Click here for part 2, it's pointing the arrow, boom, there you go. And you can see I've also put a full article in here talking about viral video marketing. And I've got my little tags here: viral video marketing, YouTube marketing, and all the rest of it. So that's all pretty good. Now, I uploaded this actually yesterday, and as you can see here, it's already had 100 views. Quite a few of those are mine probably, but it's also got some interest I noticed over here. I did a search for viral video marketing just out of curiosity, and it's already showing down here. Now, it hasn't updated here, but it says 0 views, and it was uploaded 1 day ago. It's already got a rating of 5 as well, which is kind of interesting. But that's already getting traction in YouTube, and it hasn't even been up there for a day. We haven't done any promotion whatsoever. We just uploaded it just for the sake of this video. Now, the other thing I should mention is that you have the option of changing your thumbnail. Once it's processed it, you can then see the different thumbnails you can select. Now, I selected this one. That's what you can do with video marketing now. It only gave me 3 options, and in the old days, you used to be able to kind of, with a little bit of math and figuring out frame rates and what have you, figure out what thumbnail you could actually show, because it used to be at the, I think it was the first quarter point, halfway point, and 3/4 point, and you could select from any one of those points what thumbnail you'd like to use. Now, obviously, that came under a lot of abuse when a lot of people figured that out, so now they're using kind of an internal algorithm to select. Now, if you are doing a slideshow that has a lot of photos in it, and you're kind of doing lifestyle stuff or what have you, using stock photography, like from Stock Expert, as I talked about earlier, or in one of the other videos, you can then intersplice these at different points in your video, and there's a good chance that one of these thumbnails will appear here, and you can use that. Now, because they're studio shots, you're going to get a lot more interest with them, and it'll give you a much more interesting thumbnail, obviously, for your video. In my case, I'm kind of limited. I could remix it, do a couple of different things, throw a couple of shots in there and see what happens, re-upload it, and take my shot. But actually, this worked out pretty well. I like that. So that's the thumbnail I selected. Now, it gave me this one originally, and I'm not going to click on it because I don't want to change my thing, but it only gave me 2 bullet points. That was the default one. I didn't like that. So when changing it, it takes about 8 hours for it to apply as your main thumbnail. So there you go. Anyway, other things to mention while we're here. Make sure that you have it shared, and this is the default, share your video with the world, allow comments automatically, keep an eye out for spam comments. You can also allow comments with approval only. That's a little more restrictive, and we want maximum kind of view count here and maximum conversions. So let anyone start a conversation, let them interact with each other as well. You also want people to be able to vote, and we also want to allow video responses if they're approved. Want people to be able to rate and embed it on their own sites, as well as syndicate it with all the mobile phones and what have you going on. So that's great. That's what we want to do. We want it everywhere where we can. And so there you go. The other thing to mention, well, we've got a few other options up here. You could do an audio swap. I don't recommend you doing that unless you're using music as your background. Now, if you're using the Animoto, then your video is already synced to a specific audio track or a music track. So I would only use this if you just really, really don't like your audio and it works. Okay, you don't want to overlay this without, I'll just show you this in here. You know, so they've got all these kind of different genres, artists, and stuff like that, and they give you all sorts of options, but it's not really that great, to be quite honest. I prefer to have everything synced up and kind of in time with what I've got going on. Now, annotations is something I mentioned earlier on, and I'll go into this in a little more detail. I'll let this play a little bit. But what we want to do is, you can use annotations to call attention to detail. You could put an annotation pointing to your description, which would be here when it's actually played normally. And let me actually let it get through to the end here. So I want to do this. Okay. So what I would do is quickly create an annotation. You can click on that little button here. It'll pop up this. And you can then maneuver and resize this as you want. Now, I'm going to give you a blank version of this video, as I said. And if you wanted to put your own video or your own URL in here, you could do it just as an annotation. Whoops, what am I doing? Okay. Okay, let's do that. Now we can also give it a color. Let's give it a red, just for example's sake. Maneuver it until we're happy with it. And what I will say in the default video, which will supply with this, is just you'll either click here for part 2 or visitors at this link below, and you know, they'll see that as part of their presentation. So there you go. That's annotations. You can do all sorts with it. You can actually do all sorts of crazy stuff. like call out boxes. You know, if you want to call attention to a specific part, you can do kind of focus boxes and enter your text right here, you know, just to call attention to it. And you can add a pause annotation if you want to, which honestly I've never used in my life and probably never will. So anyway, let me delete a couple of these because we don't actually want these. I don't want them appearing in my main video now. Okay, so anyway, all of those are deleted, but that's how you'd use annotations, and you can actually use captions and subtitles if you want to, which are useful. I haven't really uploaded any caption tracks and, you know, translated for viewers into the language of their choice. I haven't really done that yet, but it might be a useful thing if people are watching stuff from overseas and they want it automatically translated. So anyway, that's it uploaded to YouTube. We're already rocking and rolling. We've already had 100 visitors completely unintentionally. So that's part one. Now we've got to focus on part two. Now, as you know, we actually provide a lot of videos with video squeeze pages with the Video Assassin course. Now, this is one of the default ones. It's one of the ones I'm going to be using, and this is one we used in the Video Assassin course itself to demonstrate this. Well, the first thing we do before we do the squeeze page is actually think about the video that we're going to embed here. Now, all of these have a default YouTube video. You can link into anything you want here. We actually have a, surprise, surprise, another video, a slideshow that we're going to do, and we kind of pre-sell a little bit. We give a few tips, talk about Video Assassin, pre-sell it, and then get them to enter all their information in. That's what we want them to do. So what we've done is, I'll come back over here and I'll load in this one. So again, I won't bore you with all the details, but we've already pre-recorded this. Now we're going to do something slightly different here in terms of the production. Now we've produced the video, and what we want to do here is, again, we want to use the custom production settings again. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the same settings we used before, MP4 SWF. Now this time we're going to change it around just a little bit. We want the video actually to fit in a certain size. In our case, this is 425 by 350. Now, by doing that, why is it doing that? No, we don't want to do that. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. We actually want to have the video, because it changes the aspect ratio, we actually want to do this. 425 and then 332. Now, the reason we do 332 is I'll show you over here in a second. Click OK. The actual controls, because we're going to use this embedded HTML here, the controls themselves are 18 pixels tall. The actual size we have to work with is 425 by 350. Okay, so 350 take away 18 is our 332. So that ensures that everything altogether is going to be 425 by 350 total. Now we'd go on to the next. We'd leave it embedded in the HTML because that's what we're going to use, and we go ahead and produce that. Now we've already done this, and these are the files created. You'll see that we have the basic HTML, the SWF, this is actually the video file. So here we are, these are the files created, and we have the HTML file, the actual video file, which is actually a Shockwave, well, it's a Flash object basically, and that is all embedded in itself with the player and everything. So what we're going to do is, rather than actually embed a video file in our page directly, we're going to use the Amazon S3 service. Now, as I talked about in the Video Assassin guide, when you're hosting videos, you have to be able to serve them quickly to the customer. Now, if you've got a HostGator account or GoDaddy account or whichever kind of hosting you've got, if you have a lot of people looking at your video at any one time, that can eat into any bandwidth allocation you might have quite quickly. With HostGator, if you've got one of the business packages, you actually have unlimited bandwidth, but the serving of the video might be slow. Unless you've got a dedicated server or something that's dedicated to this, like I often use, I've actually got several servers, then, you know, it can be very restrictive and it can lead to a bad customer experience. Now, what I suggest and what I often use in these situations is the Amazon S3 service. Now, this costs mere pennies per gigabyte of transfer, and you can get a lot of traffic and a lot of video serving for a fraction of the price that you would with the consideration of hosting, and it's very, very quick. Now, you can get to Amazon's web service. Let me just bring it up. Just look for Amazon S3. I actually haven't done it here and got my pre-prep done, but you can go to the simple storage and I'll tell you all about it here. It'll give you all the pricing. If you look here, you know, let's see, just for the first 50 terabytes, it's 15 cents per gigabyte, and then you got data transfers and different bits and pieces per request. Honestly, my bill for this is actually really, really good. I'm not going to give you specifics here, but it is a fraction of what you would pay for bandwidth with your hosting if you have to pay overages and stuff like that. And it is very, very fast. Now, what you can do is once you've signed up, you've got your account, everything else, lovely jubbly, they give you what's called buckets. Now, I use a plugin called S3 Organizer, and it plugs right into your Firefox, and it acts like a file transfer client, FTP client. So you can take files from your computer and upload them to Amazon S3. Now, that's exactly what we did here. We created a bucket over here. I'll just show you. You can create buckets like this. This is just one of my Amazon S3 accounts. So we have one already prepped up. I've already uploaded my files. And the one thing I talked about is making sure that they're publicly accessible. So what you do is you select all of the files, click on Edit ACL, and make sure that they have read and read for everyone on authenticated users. This makes it publicly accessible, and we need to do that for what we're about to do now. So, we have our basic squeeze page. I'm going to show you this real quick. This is what I did to it. And you'll see here I changed the title as I described in the video assessing guide, and I put that, and now here is part 2. Obviously we've led them from part 1, and as I've talked about, we can actually have multiple part 1s. We can target many phrases and feed them into this. We want them all over here doing whatever they're doing and bring them over to part 2. So we can have many part 1s feeding into one part 2, and as you see here, go through the course. I'm just kind of fast forwarding through bits and pieces of this, and then we lead them down to here. Now, how do we do that? Now, this is where it gets a little geeky, little bit, not too much geeky, but I need to show you the actual code and how to embed this in from Amazon S3. So what I'll do is I'll bring this up real quick, and you can give this to whoever's your web guy if you don't do this yourself. But what we've done here is this is the default, and as you can see, this is the code that actually brings in the YouTube video. You see youtube.com here and whatever this video ID was. And we also have separated out here, this is the sign up form, which would be your autoresponder code. Okay. Now let's go over here. This is the actual finalized version. Okay. And I'll scroll up here. Here is what we did with the video. We actually used the code that we talked about in the video assessing course, the iframe, which basically creates a window and embeds another page. And as you can see, we've pulled in the actual link to the HTML, which is the hosted on Amazon's S3. And you can see here, vapromo1.s3.amazon.aws.com/vapromo2.html. And that's at the 425 by 350, the exact measurements we talked about earlier on. And again, if I bring this back up, you'll see that's where it pulls in. This is like a window, if you can imagine, and pulls in another location. And as you see here, it's vapromo1. This is the file we pulled in, vapromo2. So although this is the HTML with the video embedded and all that stuff, that's located on Amazon services. But when we pull it in, we're actually pulling in the remote content right in here. That way, all the customer loads from our servers is the graphics and the kind of layout. This is actually pulled from Amazon's S3 service. Very, very simple way to go ahead and host your stuff on Amazon S3 and embed it without any real complicated stuff. on your actual server itself. So there you go. We have video 1 all loaded up, as you can see here. So that feeds over to here, which is our video 2. We've tested that, and let me show you the get response. Well, in my case, I'm using get response. You can use any auto response service you like. But what I've done here is I modified the form elements so that it's using get response. I'm using bits and pieces of here, learn more about Video Assassin 2, did a little bit of tweaking of the HTML, but these are templates. They're designed to be adapted to your exact needs. We also include all the graphics files that make this up, so you can give this, you can either do this yourself or give it to a web guy. You can hire a web service from somewhere like Elance or the Warrior Forums. They'll knock out something for you very quick at a very cost-effective price if you're not up to doing it yourself. Very, very easy to do, and you go from that to this. And once you've done that, you've tested your forms, you make sure this is redirecting everywhere it needs to go. And as I should also mention, I'm going back to the code real quick, you'll notice here that the confirmation and the error page are, as we talked about, they're both going to the affiliate link for, in this case, the Video Assassin offer, which is the one we're wanting to promote here. Now, if you're promoting anything else, obviously these would be your actual affiliate links to wherever you're going, and you could use the affiliate cloaker that I also produce or gave you in the affiliates section. But whichever way you want to do it, make sure your confirmation and error pages are both going there. That way, if they screw up or mess something up with it, you're not holding them up and making them frustrated. You're just sending them anyway. Okay, you've lost a customer in terms of signing up for your autoresponder, but maybe they'll go by. You don't want to interrupt them really with a single flow that you really want here. And as I say, if you're setting up autoresponders, try and use single opt-in where possible. It's just a lot easier to deal with when you're doing these kind of squeeze pages and you're sending them on to somewhere else. So okay, well that's basically it. That is the production of 2 videos, part 1 and part 2, having one distributed through YouTube, or you could do it through TubeMogul, which is gets you into more places like Dailymotion, Metacafe, etc. Which is here, actually here. That leads on to video 2, which we've set up through Amazon S3. It's hosted remotely. It's a lot faster streaming. It saves us a ton of money and a ton of time and makes for happy customers. We're using a graphical squeeze page that we provide to you. You can actually use any squeeze page you want, and there are many, many different designs. You use whatever works for you. And these have all calls to action, which drive them down the page and gets them here. And once they do that, they go to your offer page and you're done. Okay, well, that's the last video in this series. I really hope that you've enjoyed these videos that have kind of demonstrated the techniques I talk about. There's a lot more beyond this. There is the limits really are up to you and your imagination. You can do any number of things with these techniques I've shared in this course. You can apply them in many different ways, and honestly, a lot of it is trial and error, finding what works, and if something really works well, then try and replicate it. It depends on your market, it depends on the product you're offering. You have to use kind of common sense in a lot of ways to figure out what is the best approach for each market and the customer that you've understood and researched and kind of got an idea of who that customer is, what their expectations are and what they react to. You found out what works, you've produced the videos, you create this flow, you're really leading the customer step by step through the entire process, and you are ready to rock and roll and start making some serious money. So, go finish off the Video Assassin Guide. We will kind of wrap it up from here, and go make some money. And I will see you in another product down the line. Take care.